But if you take, and here's the good news. If you take the last Big Ben year out, and then the two after that, pre-Russell Wilson, there was a 3-year stretch where the offense was awful. It's no longer awful. It's okay. They are very dependent on wide receiver George Pickens, who is moody, young, and appears to be high maintenance. They're also in the AFC, which is the superstar quarterback conference, and in an era where great defenses don't win Super Bowls, great offenses do. So the good news, they've graduated out of lousy. But once again, they have no Pro Bowlers on offense for the third straight year. And whereas the Kansas City Chiefs are going for their third straight Super Bowl, the Steelers will, for the third year in a row, lead the NFL in defensive spending. 30 years ago, the Green Bay Packers, a small market team, pivoted to offense, and they've never looked back. Always relevant. Won a lot of playoff games. The Pittsburgh Steelers have always been about defense, even when they had Terry Bradshaw and Big Ben. And they've become a team with an incredibly low ceiling as the league over the last decade has pivoted to an offensive league. So they're no longer lousy, but again, lead the NFL, third year in a row, defensive spending. It's like, you ever meet a chain smoker? They know it's killing them, but they can't stop. Like defense is where they're going to spend their money. They know it's not going to win trophies, but they can't stop. And that's what Pittsburgh is. I think they'll beat Cincinnati. I think they'll beat the Texans. So they'll get a host a playoff game and they'll win. And so the feeling will be it was a successful season, but I don't think you can have no Pro Bowlers 3 years in a row on offense, lead the NFL in spending defensively 3 years in a row, and be a viable Super Bowl team. Here's Mike Tomlin's message to his team with a chance to beat Cincy and get a home game against the Texans.
Take care of the football and stay on schedule. I think when we stay on the schedule and we take care of the football, we're a formidable group. And at times, particularly in the last several weeks, we've been spotty in those regards.
So, if they beat Cincinnati and the Texans, Steeler fans are going to tell you, look at us. Yeah, I'm looking. No Pro Bowlers, offense. You've graduated out of lousy to, okay, middle of the pack, offense.
Okay. Colin's coming in hot right now. I don't know why. Yeah, okay. My mind's kind of going in a few different directions with this one. So I'll try to kind of attack it piece by piece. Because the first question that you see right up there, right? Trust Russ to revive Steelers offense. One, I'm so conflicted because on one side I want to say, one, I don't think it's on him to revive. But on the other side, I do think he's a big part of it. But I don't think it falls all on him. I think over this, 3-game skid, he, in some aspects and in some moments, it absolutely is on him. And if he played better and higher quality, then those games change. And at least how they lose changes significantly. And I think it would have a pretty big impact on how we view this team. But I think some of the decisions that I've seen Russ make did give me pause, where I'm just like, man, just don't do that. If you just don't do that, it's everything's completely different right now. So just don't do that thing, and we're good, baby. We're good. We're copacetic. Let's go. But then he does it, and then he does it again, and you're just like, I don't understand. But on the flip side, I'm also kind of like this offense. It's like it's so reliant on some of these deep balls and these bigger plays. And I'm kind of like, no, like, don't do that. Because we even saw a piece of that when they were playing more, small ball against the Chiefs. And it was working. And then they got away from it. And then the game goes out of control. And it's just like, no, like you were making moves. Just play smart, high IQ football. It doesn't need to be fancy. It doesn't need to be all or nothing with these big plays. I can't always wrap my head around that style of offense. Why teams think that that's what they need to live and die by? I struggle with it. I don't understand. I really don't. I just it still trips me up, and I get to a degree that that's one of Russ's superpowers. But what also Russ has been doing, especially during these last 3 games with him, during this losing streak, he's been using his legs like way more. I think he's used his legs in these last 3 games than he has more during his entire time when he first kind of took over as the starter for the Steelers. And I think that's an interesting aspect to his game as well, his mobility. But again, he is an older player. I do believe he needs to protect himself at all costs. But I think him using his legs, and again, just being able to just, even if it really is just 5 yards, 6 yards, 4 yards, like any positive yardage, anytime the Steelers can find themselves in a 2nd and 4, 3rd and 3, like that's what I want to see. But the problem is, in times when they are at like 3rd and 5, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 3, like they'll throw the ball like 45 yards down the field, and I'm kind of like why? I go, that's the why that like kind of drives me a little crazy. I understand occasionally you have to do that. You keep defenses honest, and when it hits, you're like, oh yeah, let's go. And it's the difference between scoring a touchdown and not. So like, not like I'm anti doing that all the time, but it just seems like they're imbalanced in that regard. And so I'm just, this game, Colin's so sure that the Steelers are going to win, but as you can see, they're only favored by 2, which, in football speak, that's a coin flip. That's a coin flip. And so it's just, I think there's a lot at stake, because then Colin's also confident that the Ravens won't drop to the Browns. And it's like, you don't know that. Seriously, I mean, I'm not saying that I think that the Bengals are going to beat the Steelers and that the Ravens are going to lose to the Browns, but those things are both in the realm of possibility. So the Steelers can win this game and the Ravens can lose, and then boom, you're winning the division. You're in a significantly better spot. But I don't know. Like it really is. See if I can get back to the standings here, because I do think when you look at the standings, you can see, right? You got 4 playing 5. So in a way, if you're the Steelers, in a lot of ways, I think you can be pretty good, because you're gonna have 2 plays 7, 3 plays 6, 4 plays 5. Playing the Texans should be great. If you win that game, then what most likely happens is you're gonna end up playing the Chiefs, unless you really have the Chargers or the Broncos really upsetting the Bills and the Ravens, which should be unlikely, but who knows. But if you really get lucky, I mean, heck, I mean, if you really get lucky, you could have something really bonkers happening, and you could be like, hosting the AFC Championship game. Again, I'm not saying it's going to happen or that it's likely, but it is technically, theoretically possible. If you do have the Broncos or the Bengals get in, I guess you couldn't, because then, right, the Bengals wouldn't be able to get in if the Steelers are there at that spot. But if you have the Broncos upsetting the Bills, there's a real chance that they could beat the Chiefs, since the divisional rival. They know each other. They almost beat them before. I don't know. Crazier things have happened in the playoffs. You just have zero idea. But again, I'm not saying I think it's likely, but I think the Steelers are still in a unique situation where they could find themselves in a legitimate spot to kind of make some moves. But I just think that the Steelers have such less room to make any type of mistake, because what we've seen over this 3-game skid, however we want to define it, to me, it's shown, and that's why Mike Tomlin was even kind of like, take care of the ball. It's that the Steelers, they can't afford to make mistakes. I do believe the Bills can make mistakes. I do believe the Ravens can make mistakes. I do believe that, I don't even know if I want to say the Chiefs can make mistakes, because the Chiefs' superpower has honestly been their lack of mistakes for the most part. But we'll go ahead and say that they can make their mistakes because they are the Chiefs. But I do not believe that the Steelers have that. I do not feel that they have that ability. So when they do fumble, when they are in the red zone, and they're at the 5-yard line, even just not scoring a touchdown, I know it's not theoretically a mistake, but it is like a big failure. And I don't believe that they have the ability to do that. I think the Steelers have to be have a very high success rate when they're in the red zone. When they're first and goal at the 8, it's gotta be a touchdown, man. You gotta get in the end zone. You gotta get in the end zone, and you can't be wasting a play on some low percentage, back shoulder corner ball that's like, are you inbounds? Are you out of bounds? Like, what really was? Like, you can't. It's like you gotta get in there. I just think the margin of error for them is just so much smaller, and if they could just understand that, and then and continue to elevate on defense, it's like I really feel that they would be really tough, gritty outs and can come away with some wins here. But it's like they have to understand who their identity is. To me, it felt like they thought their identity was going to be this big ball because they were putting up 30 plus points a game. That's what they were averaging before this 3-game loss. And it was like, this is what we do, baby. We play defense and we put up points. And it's like, yeah, that could be part of it, but I don't think that's your identity. Russ's moonballs shouldn't be your identity. It needs to be a high-level, high IQ football with great physical, suffocating defense. And that when you do have the opportunities offensively, you take advantage of them. You don't turn the ball over. The Steelers can't afford to turn the ball over. They cannot afford to do that. I don't think they can consistently get these big plays. I don't. So it's going to be interesting. There's so many teams that have shown me multiple identities as to who they are. And that's where it's really just going to come down to the playoffs to be like, well, who are you going to be? Who are you going to be? But I do know one thing. You should not automatically sleep on the Bengals. But I guess it could be kind of interesting. Because I guess, actually, the Steelers have their spot clinched. I guess, technically, I don't know what it would look like if the Broncos won. If it's a 3-way tie, I guess technically, if they lose and the Chargers lose, since clearly they're both 10-6, and you have them already, 5 above 6 there, so that there that. But I don't know if the Broncos got 10 wins, if they leapfrog anyone. I honestly don't know if they would leapfrog the Steelers or anyone, if they just still stay at 7 if they win. But if they lose and the Bengals get in there, then there is a real chance that the Bengals could beat the Bills. And if that's the case, then the Bengals would play the Steelers, or the Bengals would play the Chiefs, and then you're in a situation where most likely the Ravens, you would be playing the Ravens. Again, unless you have another upset, and then you're hosting against the Chargers. But if not, then you would be playing the Ravens, and we already know that the Steelers are more than capable of beating the Ravens. So like I said, like there is a legitimate path here. There's a true legitimate path here. Not kind of like, oh man, we need everything perfect. But you do need to elevate your game. And I don't know. Last year it felt like the Steelers, of course, really had no chance at all. I'll be honest with you. I was like, the Steelers have no chance. It's a kind of an interesting story and the way how their season has unfolded, but like I didn't have any like real confidence in the Steelers were going to do anything, honestly. And if they were able to somehow pull off a win, I don't think that I just didn't have the confidence they were going to be able to do much more than that. And they weren't, obviously. This year, although I do think things are stacked against them for various reasons, I do believe that there is an actual path there, but it's just a more narrow path, but it is there. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Pittsburgh Steelers and kind of where their path lies right now? Do you think that Russ will be able to revive the Steelers offense? Do you think it's on Russ to be able to kind of find a way with this team offensively? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.